Here's my first guest, Jeff Markarian of Dedekian, George, Small, and Markarian, to discuss what to do with that SBA Paycheck Protection Loan.
Good morning, Tara. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining.
It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Yeah, so the Paycheck Protection Program has been quite a challenge. Let me give a little bit of background, and then we can discuss how people are using the funds and how they can seek forgiveness of the funds. So the program itself, people have to keep in mind that it was phase 3 of the CARES Act. So the CARES Act has been how Congress has been getting money out into the help the struggling economy. Phase 3 included the Paycheck Protection Program. It was the largest spending bill in Congress's history, actually over $2 trillion. And they gave the Small Business Administration 10 days to set up this program. So many business owners who have these loans will recall that they were scrambling to get applications from the SBA, which kept changing up until the date, April the 3rd, when the program went live. And people didn't know how the pandemic was going to affect them. It was just starting to hit the economy. And so everybody looked at it, as I got to get this money. I don't know how it will impact me. And some of the unique things about the loan is it's a potentially forgivable loan if you spend money within the parameters of the program. And to get the money out to the businesses so quickly, it became a self-certification program where many times with the loan you go through extensive underwriting. In this case, as the borrower, you were allowed to actually certify that you met many of the eligibility requirements for the loan. So they started with $349 billion, and the system was overwhelmed when it started. And so they exhausted the funds in 14 days, and the SBA likes to tell the story that the volume was so great they processed 14 years worth of SBA loans in 14 days. So they put another $310 billion into the program, and many people got their money in the second batch of funding. And even today, there's $659 billion who are put in the program. There's still over $120 billion available. So people still have until August the 8th to apply for the program.
And what does a company need to qualify for the program?
The basic eligibility requirements are that you were in business on February the 15th of 2020 and that you had under 500 employees. And it's actually, you can be whether you're a corporation or a nonprofit organization or a sole proprietor, self-employed, independent contractor, you can qualify for the program. And some businesses over 500 employees, such as some of the franchise restaurants, hotels, under certain circumstances they can apply to, but typically it's businesses with under 500 employees.
And the original loan extension was for 8-week period, and
yeah, so the original intent of the program, and keep in mind at the time that people didn't know how long this pandemic was going to last, but the intent was to have businesses retain their workforce for an 8-week period. And the loan was intended to cover your payroll costs and some of your overhead for this 8-week period. And what happened was, as the pandemic extended, some businesses who received loans got shut down, such as restaurants. And one of the impacts of that was initially you had to spend 75% of your loan proceeds on payroll to be eligible for full forgiveness. But because you had businesses who received loans and were not able to operate after they received the loans, they were having a hard time meeting the wage requirements. So Congress extended that 8-week period to a 24-week period. And so many people who have received their loans now are eligible, are using a 24-week period to spend the money as opposed to the original 8-week period.
And you said those were meant to cover payroll and non-payroll costs, or?
Yeah, so the payroll costs are primarily your typical, your cash payroll, your wages, your tips, your bonuses. It also includes your employee health insurance costs, your employee retirement costs, and also your employer's share of your state payroll taxes as well. And the overhead, the non-payroll costs that are eligible include if you have mortgage interest, so if you have a mortgage on your building, your rent expenses for your building rent, your office rent, or your equipment rent, and also your utilities, which would be your electricity, gas, internet, fuel for vehicles. And so that's become, there's been a lot of questions about some of the non-payroll costs, and even to this day, there's still some guidance that's being requested from the SBA that's been coming out.
And what are some repercussions for not being able to meet the requirements?
So the intent of the loan is for it to be fully forgivable. So if you don't meet the current thresholds now of, you have to meet at least 60% of the money spent on payroll, and 40% can be spent on eligible non-payroll costs. If you meet those thresholds, and I'll explain in a minute the forgiveness process, you can have the loan fully forgiven. If you don't meet those requirements, it can be partially forgiven, and any of your loan that's not forgiven, the way the legislation is now, if your loan was received between June the 5th, it's repayable over 2 years at 1% interest. If you received the loan after June the 5th, it's repayable over 5 years at 1% interest. But people who got their loans before June 5th, the lenders can agree to let them repay that unforgiven portion over a 5-year period, which I expect is what would happen.
Do you have any updates on the application process?
The application process itself is still open. You can apply until August the 8th. And even as we're speaking this morning, Congress is still discussing Phase 4 of the CARES Act. And Phase 4, many people focusing on Phase 4 are watching to see if there's going to be additional $1,200 stimulus checks coming out to individuals, and also the extension of the $600 a week unemployment benefit that people have been receiving from the federal government. But they're also talking about potentially allowing businesses to get a second PPP loan, because this pandemic has lasted so much longer than anticipated. That is included in the second, in the Phase 4 they're discussing right now. So as of today, you can still apply up until August the 8th. And the general application is, and how most of the loans were determined, was based on your average payroll for 2019, your average monthly payroll, times 2.5. And that number essentially, plus your health insurance and benefits, that number gave you your maximum loan amount. That's still the basic formula for determining your loan, but you do still have another week as of now to apply for a loan. And like I said earlier, there's still about $120 billion unspent in the program.
And if one of our viewers, businesses, wanted to contact you for help with applying or helping plan their finances, how would they get a hold of you?
They can call us, 431-5500, visit our website, cpaplus.com, or reach me at Markarian at cpaplus.com. Let me quickly just touch on the forgiveness process. Real quickly, the forgiveness application, when businesses apply for forgiveness, they'll do it through their lender. And the SBA is in the process of setting up an online portal, and the way the process will work is the borrower will submit an application to the lender, who will review it and make a recommendation to the SBA to fully forgive the loan or partially forgive or deny. Right now, that system isn't expected to go up until August the 10th. And so lenders I don't think many lenders are even accepting the documentation from the borrowers yet. But in the meantime, it's very important to accumulate documentation to support your expenses, whether it's payroll records, bank records, verification of your lease agreements, utility expenses. But one of the things that is potentially going to happen, they're discussing right now in the current congressional negotiations, is to forgive all loans under $150,000. And that would just require a one-page self-certification from the borrower, which would, in effect, the borrower would be saying, I was eligible for the loan, here's the amount I received, I spent it in accordance with the requirements. And right now, there's been over 5 million loans that have been dispersed through the program. Over $520 billion. And of those loans, as of last week, about 87% of those loans were under $150,000. But it made up about 27% of the total dollars. So most of the dollars that have gone out through the program are in loans under $150,000. So to keep the banking system and the SBA from being overwhelmed with the forgiveness applications, there are discussions to potentially automatically forgive all those loans under $150,000. So it's very important for anybody to watch if they are going to be seeking forgiveness for their loan. But the information's changing daily, so I'm more than happy to come back and update everybody as we get more information.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Jeff. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close out for today?
No, stay safe and stay healthy.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can reach out to our sponsor, Safe Food Alliance. They have a full suite of food safety services. You can reach them at safefoodalliance.com or visit their location in Kingsburg, California. Another one of our sponsors is Custom Digital Portfolios. They do custom menus. You can also get QR codes on your business cards that will automatically send them to your digital portfolios. Check them out at bit.ly/custom portfolios. One of our sponsors today is DCI Flooring. They have antimicrobial sealants and they are USDA, FDA, OSHA compliant. Make sure to reach out to them for urethanes, drains, polishes, concrete, and stain. You can reach them in Fresno, Sacramento, and Los Angeles. Another one of our sponsors is Fine Print Plus. You want to reach out to them for some social distancing floor decals. They offer them in 11-inch diameter, and they work on smooth floors such as concrete, tile, laminate, hardwood, and low-pile carpet tiles. Reach them at 559-237-4747 or email them your request at graphics@fineprintplus.com or request a quote at fineprintplus.com/quote.